ask yourself the damn question. Is winning the only thing to you?
Sports today are not just played on the field. They're played every day, online, all over the world, by sports fans just like you.
Don't you dare breathe. That won't get you anywhere. If you don't think you're a winner, you don't belong here.
Fantasy Sports puts you in control of your own team. The Nick Bonsanto Show is proud to present the Star Fantasy League Show. Find out who to sit, who to start, how to play, and have your daily fantasy sports questions answered with your host, Jonathan Sprung, co-hosted by SFL CEO Zach Stanley and SFL COO Seth Young. The Star Fantasy League Show, on the air.
Make this game your finest hour.
Now.
Hello and welcome to the Star Fantasy League Show. I am your host, Jonathan Sprung, joined for the first time by SFL CEO Zach Stanley. What up, Zach?
What a privilege it is to be here.
I know, we're on the radio. How awesome is this? And we're also joined by, for the first time, SFL COO, Mr. Seth Young himself.
John, it's a beautiful day.
It is an absolutely beautiful day. It's blizzarding out in New York, but you know what? NFL this weekend, it's going to be blizzarding pretty much everywhere. We have that to deal with. This is the Star Fantasy League Show. We are talking exclusively about fantasy sports, season-long fantasy sports, daily fantasy sports. We are breaking down lineups. We are helping you craft the best team possible. And since it is Thursday, we are going to break down the wild card weekend fantasy playoffs for everybody out there on Star Fantasy Leagues. We'll break down salaries. We'll break down everything you could possibly want to talk about fantasy football. So are you guys ready for this? This is going to be a pretty big undertaking.
I think we're going to take this one to the house.
I'm ready to blizzard all over the place.
Yeah, that's true. I feel bad for the guys in Green Bay. At least we don't have to deal with that. We're dealing with about the teens temperatures right now.
Yeah, we're going to get about 15 inches of snow.
Yeah, it's all right. I think we'll make do.
Even the Bills couldn't play in this.
This is very true. But you know what the best part is? While we're this cold, you know what we have to keep us warm? Fantasy football. If your season's over in season-long fantasy football, guess what? StarFantasyLeagues.com still has daily fantasy sports games available. And coming up after the break, we will break down the season-long daily fantasy, all of it in one nice little present. And you're listening to the Star Fantasy League Show on the Sports Byline USA Network.
Nick Bonsanto is proud to present the Star Fantasy League Show. Feel free to tweet the show at SFL Show.
Thank you guys so much for listening to the Star Fantasy League Show. Before we get into the meat and bones of the fantasy podcast you guys want to hear so much about, we figured since this is our first time on the radio, it's the first time for you guys hearing us, we tell you a little bit about our fantasy breakdown, about our sports allegiances, and all that. So right out of the gate, my name is Jonathan Sprung. I was born in Boston, Massachusetts, but no, I am not a New England Patriots fan. I'll give you a minute to stop booing me.
Thank goodness.
Okay, yeah.
There's only one Patriots fan in here that's worth their salt.
This is true. But I am a born and bred Pittsburgh Steeler fan. Again, I know it's
great
makes no
season.
sense. Yeah, I grew up 5 minutes from the stadium, if you can believe that, from Gillette Stadium. Apparently, nobody gave me the memo I was supposed to be a New England Patriots fan.
Well, the Patriots were terrible when you were growing up.
That's actually true. That's very true. My grandfather was a Steeler fan. Stuck to that route until now. I've never been a diehard fan.
I might be wrong, but I think you have a life-size Heinz Ward poster. Is that true?
It's a pillow, but we're not going to talk about that. It's a little off topic. I actually am a Boston fan everywhere else that it counts. The Celtics, Red Sox, Bruins when they're good. I'm a little fair weather. I'm not going to lie with the hockey. But I've been playing fantasy sports since Yahoo had those crazy leagues where you can buy and sell players and make more money. It was like a stock exchange. Do you remember that, Zach?
I do. I mean, look at how far we've come.
I know. I didn't even remember. I didn't know the real rules. I got a guy that pitched a perfect game, but I got him like the day he was doing it, and I thought I got those points. And I think I was like 12 years old. It turns out I've learned a little bit since then, and I will impart that wisdom on you guys now instead of doing terrible things when I'm 12. All right, Zach, let me know a little bit about your fantasy and sports background.
Well, as both of you know, I am a champion. 16-time fantasy football champion.
Out of how many, Zach?
Well, I do like 10 a year.
Okay,
so that's pretty good.
That's reasonable.
I took down 5 this year. So
Not
I'm
bad.
feeling pretty good about myself. As a growing up in Rochester, New York, lifetime Bills fan, And, it's not easy.
I was going to say, I'm
sure,
very
I'm sure
sorry.
Not easy. That's not the word for it.
I'm sure some of the viewers can relate to how difficult it is to live so close to Buffalo and battle with such an awful team. But next year, of course, will end up being the year inevitably. So.
Just like every other year.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's always next year in sports.
It's next year.
Just like the Cleveland Browns.
Oh,
It'll be next year for them.
I'm sure we have listeners in Cleveland. Seth, don't start off on such a bad foot. Go ahead, Seth Young. Tell us about your sports and fantasy allegiances and all that good stuff you got going on.
Well, I'm all over the map, John. I'm a New Yorker, born and bred, born outside of New York City, right on Long Island. I'm a huge Patriots fan, and my formative years were spent in Boston. I'm a really big fan of Tom Brady. I have a life-size cardboard cutout of him in my bedroom. That's not tired.
I think, like Tom Brady, you're a big fan of cocoa butter.
I love cocoa butter. I love shea butter.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't think this is the right network for that, but maybe more Tom Brady talk, less skincare product talk.
Well, shea butter's pretty fantastic.
That's probably
Anyway,
He was about to bring up his Uggs. So.
Uggs are pretty fantastic also.
Sponsored by Tom Brady, of course. Go on.
Patriots fan, Yankees fan. My father instilled that in me from an early age. Baseball is always a first love. Big fan of the Yanks. Also I started out as a Penguins fan, a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, if you could believe that. I invited them all to my bar mitzvah when I was 13. They sent me a signed puck and a nice little card that said Happy Bar Mitzvah or something.
Did they really?
That's
sent
not
me a
too
puck.
hard. Not too hard when we're watching Mario Lemieux and Jaromir Jagr.
You know what's funny? I didn't tell you this, Zach, ever. I have a signed bar mitzvah photo from Marv Levy. I don't know how.
What a legend.
I wasn't even a fan. My uncle sent them something like, this is my nephew's bar mitzvah. How did that even... I saw it. I was like, I know this guy, but why?
Our last good coach, I think.
Yeah, that might be true.
I got to carry
now.
Mario Lemieux's bag during a celebrity hockey tournament when I was something like 11 years old. I snuck into the tournament. I hopped a fence at a local golf course, and I just sort of bum rushed them up there, and he let me carry his bag for a hole. And that was great. For a young kid, that was really good. I think that was the year before or after he had the Hodgkin's thing going on, and that was really nice.
For some reason, I can't see you hopping a fence.
Well, not anymore.
Yeah, that was young Seth Young.
I mean, I was a wee one at that point.
There's some really crazy moments because people when they're young, you either have really really strong memories when you were a kid, or they're really negative memories, and you have something strong that endeared you to the Pittsburgh Penguins, who you no longer even follow.
Yeah, no, now I'm a Rangers fan. I have to give credit to my wife for that, and I have to say also to my wife, honey, if you're listening, I know that you drafted my first fantasy football team, but we don't have to tell everybody about it.
Oh, did she really?
She did. She absolutely did. Yeah, this is years ago. She helped me put together my first team when I.
Oh, I thought
really
you meant this year. Oh,
no,
man.
I mean, if she did this year, I probably would have won. She took down all the leagues we played in. It's crazy.
Which brings me to my next talent, which is picking on Seth.
Oh, yeah, the one thing you guys, your listeners, will hear is us just ragging on poor Seth this season. I mean, he knows what he's doing. He is a very, very smart fantasy mind, but for some reason, this season was not your season.
I tanked. I absolutely tanked. I had so many leagues. I took down one. I made the playoffs, the Super Bowl, another one, and I got a ring out of it and a little bit of cash. But for the most part, I tanked. I mean, it really, really.
Yeah, we actually we did a podcast before this, the Daily Fantasy Sports podcast, to get us into the mode of talking on the radio and just talking. We wanted any outlet to talk about fantasy sports. That's how much we love what we do. Working for Star Fantasy Leagues, it's an absolute dream. Working on fantasy sports, daily fantasy, it's a new industry. We really got to just jump in there and experience it and talk about it. It's great.
And the most incredible thing about what we're doing now is that we're inventing new technology for you to engage in your fandom and play fantasy sports. It's so much fun. I mean, think about how far we've come from the early days of buying a draft board. And this is still fun. Not to take away from that.
Yeah, we did that in the office.
Buy a draft board, you get a party
thing
together. But now, I mean, you could do this every day from the comfort of your home for every sport. It's so much fun. Great way to introduce your family and friends to fantasy sports, too.
And there's nothing worse than being knocked out of your league, but nothing better than being able to hop on a daily fantasy site, play on the weekend, and get after it.
Yeah,
have
that
something to compete for.
That is the best part about it. I mentioned at the top of the show that if you basically all the season long fantasy is over. I mean, usually week 16 is the end of your season, maybe week 17 if you play a deeper league for some strange reason. But if your season was over in week 10 and you're like, oh, man, I got nothing to do, daily fantasy sports, especially on starfantasyleagues.com, all you have to do is click. You're playing in maybe 10 seconds. You get an account, you sign up, you play for free, and you win money.
Yeah, I was in a points league with the Rochester Institute of Technology, some of these guys from over there. It was an absolutely terrible league. So, some of these guys, 12 weeks through the season, they're in the tank already. It's time to hop on and start competing on some of these daily fantasy sites.
I know we're talking football today, and this is really an interesting time to come on and start a show on the radio here with you guys and talk about this. But this is a good time if you're out of the playoffs, you don't know what to do with yourself when football's coming around, that you really come on and try the site. We'll be talking about some basketball, some hockey, and some baseball in the coming months too. And really, we have games for all of those things, so you should come and play.
Yeah, that's true. We actually we had a 2 days a week. I believe it's Tuesday and Thursday. We have a $50 NBA free roll. So if you're just coming off NFL, maybe you're not so keen on playing the playoffs, just that. If you want to learn NBA, there's no better way to do it than playing for free. You literally go on, you do a little bit of research, you understand these players. Maybe you don't know their names, maybe you know the teams but not the players. You just go in there, look at we have all their stats categorized. You look at their fantasy points per game. It's really easy to do.
So many different strategies, so many different categories. It's an awesome time.
I think one of the things we failed to mention is that the coolest part about this is that you can play for free. A free roll is when you play for free and you can win real money.
And we've got other free games.
We have plenty of other free games. You could either play for free on StarFantasyLeagues.com or you can play for money. And this is completely legal, and it's something that a lot of people don't really know about. And it's definitely a lot of fun. It's worth checking out. It's worth educating yourself about it. It's not sports betting. It's not gambling. Playing fantasy sports, as you know, very well know, it's a game of skill. If somebody comes into your league and they don't know what they're doing, they're not going to beat you.
And this year, that has been you. We've gone against you almost every week, Seth.
Fade the picks.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
That's all we have to do.
And the funny thing is, coming up after our next break, we're actually going to get into what we used to do on our podcast. It's called the Weekend Fantasy Focus, where we actually break down all of the values and all of the best plays and we talk about every facet of it just to make sure you go from the top of your lineup to the bottom of the lineup and make your best team.
One of the most basic things about what we do at Star Fantasy Leagues is we have a salary cap game, and that means you get $100,000 in fake money to fill 10 spots on your team. So what we're going to talk about for value plays are people that you can put in your roster to help you save money so you can get some of the better, higher value players in and stay under that salary cap. You act as a general manager for your team.
Yeah, that's one of the hardest things to do. Is you see all these guys, you see, I know him, I know Drew Brees, I know LaShawn McCoy, I know Jamal Charles, but you can't put all of them on your lineup. That just wouldn't be fair. With the $100,000 salary cap, it makes it a lot easier to go, I guess I can have one of these good guys, one of these other guys, and you got to do the value picks. And when we come back from break, guess what we're going to do? We're going to start by breaking down those value picks on StarFantasyLeagues.com. You're listening to the Star Fantasy League show on Sports Byline USA Network.
Play fantasy sports for cash prizes. Join the top daily and weekly fantasy leagues in the country at StarFantasyLeagues.com. Now, back to the Star Fantasy League show with Jonathan, Zach, and Seth. Time to break down the weekend NFL games. Weekend Focus, now on the Star Fantasy League show.
It's Thursday, and that means just 2 days left to get your lineup set for a wild card playoff weekend in Fantasy NFL. I am so excited. The time is here. The season is not over. We get to talk about breakdowns on StarFantasyLeagues.com.
The whole Saturday and Sunday format is just amazing. That's fantastic.
Oh, it's a whole weekend.
Like 4 o'clock on Saturday, you're ready to go.
It's a wild weekend.
We have
down for some wings and beer.
Guys, we have so much to cram into this little section we have. Let's just get through every piece of value we can. We're going to start out with Value Corner. These are our value picks Seth mentioned earlier. They're on the cheaper side of the salary cap scale to try to make your lineup a little top heavy if we can. Let's start out with the quarterback position. You guys got any value picks you're looking at?
Yeah, quarterback position is tough this week because we have all the starters for the playoff teams are more expensive than usual. But if you're looking at value on StarFantasyLeagues.com when you're drafting your lineup, I think Colin Kaepernick would be an interesting pick. He's priced at just over $16,000. As has been touched on in the earlier segment with Nick Monsanto, it's going to be very cold in Green Bay.
Not just very
weekend.
cold. It's going to be like deathly cold.
Like
coldest
negative 15 degrees.
Coldest of all time.
So I don't think that's really conducive to throwing the ball too much. I think you're going to see Colin Kaepernick do a lot of running, maybe get in the end zone once or twice on his feet. But he's also had a really good past 6 games. They've had a 6-game winning streak. He's thrown 10 touchdown passes and 1 pick. He's an interesting play for me. I really like him.
Yeah, I agree with Colin Kaepernick totally. I mean, even despite the cold, as long as it's not dumping snow on him, usually these quarterbacks can rise above that, especially when it comes to playoff time. You're looking at a guy that in week 1 had 3 TDs and 412 yards passing, okay, for 30.7 fantasy points. I mean, you can't do much better than that. This game has shootout potential. We all know that. Aaron Rodgers is going to be throwing the ball. Yeah, I think Kaepernick has great value at $16,000.
Some people might say to stay away from the game because it's so cold, but I really think it's going to be a run-it-out ground and pound.
Well, right now I'm staying away from this game only because we don't know. If it is really cold and a blizzard, then I'm completely off of this game. But for right now, I'm being a little weary.
You got to keep in mind that this game is a huge asset because you're able to actually compare players from the previous game this season.
That is
whereas
true.
Some
They
of the
have
other
played.
games you're not able to do that.
And you need to fill 2 spots at quarterback. I mean, you would think that one of those spots is going to have to be the cheaper play.
Well, that's why actually this is going to be fun for you, Seth. Alex Smith. I absolutely love Alex Smith. I know you don't ever want to talk about Alex Smith.
Who has had a fine season.
He has. He's
mediocre at best.
Oh, get out of here.
He doesn't do anything for your team. You know, you want to talk about Alex Smith. You don't want to talk about Alex Smith. Why do you bring him up?
I have to.
He manages a game. Jamal Charles wins the game. The defense wins the game. Alex Smith can't throw the damn ball.
Who's getting the points on those 4-yard and 5-yard dump downs to go for 70 yards to Jamal Charles? Alex Smith is getting those points.
I don't like
Andy
it.
Reid said, when did game manager turn into such a criticism?
Yeah, I don't that makes no sense to me.
When you can hear him through a mouthful of ribs.
Wins. All he needs to do is bomb the ball to Jamal Charles.
He can't bomb the ball. He can't throw the ball more than 30 yards.
Yeah, by bomb the ball, he meant 5 yards, and then let Jamal Charles run.
20 yards.
You know, Indianapolis has probably one of the worst defense. Well, no, I think Philadelphia's got one of the worst defenses
Indy
in the playoffs.
actually, towards the end of the year, they started coming on. They're about middle of the pack in every defensive category right now. They're not that bad.
They crushed Kansas City in Week 16. I mean, absolutely demolished.
Yeah, that was a beat.
It was embarrassing. I mean, I guess I would think that Kansas City probably wants to avenge that. And seeing it as it's the playoffs now,
avenge me.
You go home if you lose.
This is true.
So they're going to play hard. But still, I don't see Alex Smith having the game that all the other quarterbacks.
All right, before you blow a gasket just in the first show of our young life of being on the radio.
He's already red.
I know. It's okay. We're going to move on to running backs for value. What do you got, Zach?
I'm staying on this game. I'm looking at Frank Gore. Now, you're looking at cold weather running backs. Frank Gore, only 13.5 fantasy points in the first game. He reached the end zone, got a couple catches, but he's down there at 10,900. And this guy is a perennial guy. This guy performs year in, year out. Unlike what Seth said, I believe, at the beginning of the year, saying he was going to fall off because of age.
No,
you know that Frank Gore still has some youth left.
Yeah, right. That's the line right there.
That had to happen.
Yeah, no, I love Frank Gore. If you look at the guys that he's down here with, you got Pierre Thomas, Danny Woodhead is above him. Ryan Matthews is above him. I think he's a great
Ryan Matthews, who's been having a great end of the season.
Yeah,
by the way.
he's come on.
That's true, but Cincinnati Rundy, I don't know about that.
I agree with Frank Gore. I really like Frank Gore this week, especially in what I think is going to be a grounded-out game in San Francisco and Green Bay. But 2 backs that I really like this week, who you may or may not agree with, are Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, and Gio Bernard.
I love BGE.
They're both priced fairly. I know Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis is a little over $7,000. But Phillip Rivers has been an incredible quarterback this season. I mean, his passer rating is, I think, a 105.5, which is pretty good. And on third downs, he's got the second highest passer rating in the NFL.
Yep.
I think that Cincinnati's going to really try to keep this ball on the ground, slow the pace of the game, keep the San Diego offense off the field. I think that's going to give them the best chance to win. So I really like Law Firm and
remember
and
last
Gio
time these
this
two
week.
teams played, it was 17-10. Everyone was expecting a 44-28 shootout. This game was very slow pace, as you said. They played their game plan.
You know, it can get out of hand because the San Diego secondary is terrible.
Yes,
they've good safety in Eric Weddle, but their cornerbacks are just not very good.
They're 29th against the pass. They never ever came back.
So I would expect AJ Green and Marvin Jones to sort of go off this week.
Maybe we can talk about AJ Green when we talk about wide receivers.
And in the second part of the show, we're not talking about. He's not valued.
We're talking about wide receivers today.
No. Oh yeah, there's wide receivers in the NFL. No way. Somebody that you guys probably may not agree with me on. He's very very inexpensive. I like James Starks this week for a value play. Only because Eddie Lacy's coming off an injury. If the weather is so cold that these players are cramping up, you really think a guy that's injured a week ago is going to miraculously play well in negative 20-degree weather?
I don't want to set my lineup based on ifs.
That's what I'm saying. If we get to the day and Eddie Lacy, he's practicing a little bit. He's not really playing. He doesn't come out for warm-ups.
Eddie Lacy's going to play. Even if Eddie Lacy plays, James Stark is going to get a couple carries. Big deal.
He had 11 for 88 last game when Eddie Lacy missed a little bit of the game. He can run the ball.
I'd be more open to taking Donald Brown, honestly.
I agree.
700 more than that, but James Starks I simply can't touch. I don't see Lacy going down. Going down's a fluke in these types of games anyways. You can't look at that.
All right, let's move along before you rip my head off to wide receivers. One each from you guys. Who do you got, Seth, for wide receiver value?
I've got more than one I'd like to talk about, but one of my wide value picks this week, I think for $10,000, and I could call this value at $10,000 for a wide receiver, is Marcus Colston. I think that the Philadelphia D is not my opinion. They're just bad.
It's not your opinion. They're the worst pass defense in the league.
When you go with Marcus Colston, I think on the flip side also at 6,700 is Kenny Stills, and those are both two good plays I think this week. Kenny Stills will probably put up some points when they're, I think, going to be playing from behind in Philly.
Yes, that's really good at naming the entire board of players.
Yeah, I only want you to say one.
Like everybody.
Yeah, let's go 10.
Okay, I'm looking at my boy Krabby Patty, Michael Crabtree, 8,033. I love what he's been doing the last few weeks. Kaepernick loves him. It's going to be wide open, I think, in this game against the Packers secondary. I'm going Crabtree all the way.
I really like Crabtree, but I like somebody better. I know we talked about how much we hated him all season long. Dwayne Bowe. Over Dwayne Bowe. He's actually come on in the last couple weeks, surprisingly. He came out of the grave, basically.
Well, you know who's throwing to Dwayne Bowe.
Yeah, I do.
So if Dwayne Bowe runs a route more than 10 yards, he's not getting the football.
That actually hasn't been true in the past 3 weeks. Alex Smith's had a couple 300-yard passing games.
You could do much better for the money than Dwayne Bowe. I think if you go $1,000 more, you're going to get Riley Cooper in Philadelphia playing New Orleans, who can't win on the road. Pick Riley Cooper.
Bradley Cooper, where has he been the past 5 weeks? What's he done?
I think I'm going to look up 20-yard passes for Alex Smith after the broadcast and let you know about it.
Go nuts.
Actually, we do have a break coming up. You know what? We should look at it
We'll
and then
look it up at the break.
Yeah, we'll come back from the break and laugh at you because guess what? That's what we do on this show. We laugh at you.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, that's true. Let's move on. Tight ends. There actually aren't that many great plays at tight end this week, unless you guys have something else to say aside from that.
Are you kidding?
I really don't think
there's a real good cheap tight end this week in Andrew Corliss.
Oh,
I have Andrew Corliss written down right here.
$3,824 on Star Fantasy Leagues. With Aaron Rodgers back at the helm, absolutely, I'm playing Andrew Corliss.
Aaron Rodgers loves his tight ends. You're looking at a situation where you got a tight San Francisco secondary, and Corliss can end up being the check-down guy that benefits from some of those.
I'd like to tell you that Seth on Thanksgiving Day started Brandon Bostic, who wasn't actually playing. Remember that, Seth?
Oh, that was a joke team.
Oh, sure it was. Oh, hey, I'm going to put this great value play in at tight end. Didn't play.
Yeah, like when Zach Stacy was coming back from injury, and Seth thought it would be a committee backfield for the Rams.
So,
you know what? I like Darryl Richardson at the beginning of the season.
We're actually in the coming weeks. We are going to break down all of our preseason plays that we had, all of our things we talked about, and see how we did.
I want to mention one more tight end who's caught some passes from Nick Foles, and that's Brent Selleck. Brent Selleck's been getting in the end zone in Philly, and that game I think is going to be a shootout, Philly versus New Orleans. I don't think we're going to see that game slow down on the ground.
I don't think you should overlook the guy that's about 1,000 less than him, which is Zach Ertz.
Yeah,
he's had some games too.
He certainly has.
They take each other's productivity. That's the only problem.
You never know who's one of those. Yeah. It's a Heath Miller type of situation. They're both going to catch passes, and they might get in the end zone.
That's true. My guy is, if you want to save a lot of money, Ladarius Green, $4,099. 3 or 4 weeks in a row he had a touchdown. He took 1 week off. He had another good week this week.
Where'd he go?
I don't know. Where did he go? Did he have a picnic? I'm not really sure.
Antonio Gates stepped up and was the old security blanket for Phillip Rivers.
So considering Corliss is less, it looks like we're going to have a little bit of a battle going on within the office this week.
Yeah, that's what we love here on the Star Fantasy League show.
I am the inter-office champion for this year, as
playing against one of our
noted by the ring that's sitting on my office shelf.
I'm sure it is. All right, let's quickly, before the break, let's get into value defenses. Obviously, there's only 8 teams playing this week. We don't have many to pick from. I'm going with the cheapest one on the board, Green Bay.
You know he got sent a ring in the mail for doing nothing.
Yeah,
right?
I have a feeling that happened.
I just want to make sure.
Green Bay's 2302. They are super cheap. I feel like you got to go cheap this week. What do you guys think?
I agree. I think Green Bay is the pick this week, especially because I don't think it's going to be the high-scoring game that everybody else does. Both defenses are deep. Well, Green Bay's defense isn't that great. San Francisco defense is good, but I don't think it's going to be a huge shootout. I don't think it's going to be
everyone's predicting it's going to be the lowest scoring of the 4 games this weekend, with New Orleans, Philly obviously being the highest. So
it's cold.
It could be really bad.
The Chargers are also down there at around 2,300. And we all know that Andy Dalton likes to toss the ball around a little bit. So I think there's a possibility, a couple picks, they'll make value for that.
Well,
it depends which Andy Dalton's going to come and show up to play.
But he still likes to throw picks even when he's performing.
Interceptions aren't that big of a deterrent in daily fantasy as opposed to season long. So, I mean, you got to really take the good with the bad. You want the good Dalton, you want the bad Dalton. I don't know who's going to show up. All I know is that we're going to have a lot of fun talking about more fantasy after the break. You're listening to the Star Fantasy League show on the Sports Byline USA Network.
The Star Fantasy League show is now part of the Nick Bonsanto Show. Information is key to being a successful fantasy team owner, and the guys have all the updated info you need right now.
We got all your value picks for you before the break, but what do we got to do now? We got to give you our weekend winners. These are our players, regardless of price, that we think are going to give you the best chance to win your daily fantasy league.
The best of the best.
That is exactly true what it is. Let's obviously start out with the QB position. Who do you think is going to be the top scoring fantasy QB this weekend?
It's Drew Brees. I mean, this is the guy. It's hard. First of all, it's hard to shy away when you're looking at the guys that are in the playoffs that performed at the top all year long. He's in a favorable matchup, 24th ranked passing defense for Philly.
It's 32nd. They are dead last.
Are you sure?
You know, I couldn't
passing
disagree
yards per
more
game.
with this pick.
Okay.
I think it's all about Nick Foles this week. I don't think that Drew Brees is going to be playing from behind this game, so he's definitely going to be throwing the ball. I don't think they're going to win. I think Nick Foles is going to throw 4 or 5 touchdowns.
Really?
Absolutely.
You are that high on Nick Foles this week?
He's been so good. He has been so good this year. Absolutely.
This comes as an absolute surprise to me. I really thought everyone was going to agree on Drew Brees.
I think there's a chance that Foles could edge him out, but how are you not taking Drew Brees in this scenario? I mean, you got LaShawn McCoy, who's the guy that can take over a game on his own, and they rely upon him so much. If you look at New Orleans, Drew Brees is the guy. He is passing on almost every single down.
Oh, yeah, even their technical running game is just Drew Brees passing to a running back.
They're not playing in the dome.
That is, I mean, that's the knock on him, but come on.
It's a fair knock.
Is Nick Foles not playing in that same weather?
Nick Foles is playing in that weather.
He's from Arizona. He went to school in Arizona.
You know what? They run a fast offense. Nick Foles has been more than capable throughout this season. You can't disagree that he's been an excellent quarterback.
Yeah, but I can disagree against Drew Brees.
Sure, of course you can.
I'm going to bring a third person to the party. I am really high on Dalton. We said that he's the Jekyll high. He throws the 4 touchdowns, but the 3 picks. If he goes 4 touchdowns, 1 pick this week, I think he's the highest scoring quarterback on the board.
You know, if Andy Dalton throws a pick, would you say he's been caught red-handed?
Wow. This is what you're going to get.
This is what he's going to do. He's going to start with these jokes again, which are the absolute worst, which I have to listen to all week long, and it just terrorizes me.
This is true.
You're welcome.
All right, running backs for your weekend winner. So you got Seth, stars out.
I like LaShawn McCoy this week. I mean, I can't not take LaShawn McCoy. I really like the Philly offense. I think everybody on that team is going to perform this week.
Why are you so down on Alex Smith, man? What do you have against the guy?
He's not a great quarterback.
Okay, but you know who he has? A guy named Jamal Charles?
Yeah, Jamal Charles is fantastic. He could be a weekly winner too.
That's
all of
what
these
I'm
guys.
saying.
All of these guys have the potential to be weekly winners. My opinion is that LaShawn McCoy is going to take the crown this week.
You know what I think to myself? I think, who is the highest performing back that I can pick that also has a favorable matchup? I'm going with Jamal Charles.
Yeah,
there's absolutely no doubt about it. Okay, even when they got blown out, 106 yards and a TD and 5 catches for 38 yards. Give me a break with this.
I can't.
If you're taking Charles over McCoy, I just think you're straight up wrong.
I can't root against the guy who, when he jukes somebody, yells his own name.
Yeah, that's there you go. Let's end it on that. That's amazing. Wide receivers, Zach, stars out.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking at A.J. Green. San Diego, 28th ranked against wide receivers I've got. He performs consistently all year long. Big upside in this matchup. Comes to play when it counts. Dalton loves him. There's just no way to go wrong, I don't think. I mean, somebody could end up edging him out, of course. But you can't go wrong choosing A.J. Green.
There are a lot of great people to pick this week. And I've been back and forth between a lot of them. I mean, Marcus Colston, A.J. Green. Keenan Allen even is a great pick. But I think, call me crazy, I think T.Y. Hilton's going to have a big, big week. And I see Zach putting his hand over his face like, what are you doing?
Well, I find it a little humorous that you took Marcus Colston as your value pick when T.Y. Hilton's right
cheaper.
There with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
He does all the time.
So T.Y. Hilton's going to be the best performer of the week, but he's not the value pick.
I think T.Y. Hilton's going to have a big game. And it's only because he has to. He had a huge game against Kansas City the last time they played. He had a great last game when they played. And, if he puts up another 12, 13 receptions for 155, 160 yards, gets in the end zone, he's got a
I don't see it happen in a playoff game where Casey's defense is they're going to do their best to shut down.
They already
really
played.
You're really starting to make my head hurt at this point.
All right, mine is Keenan Allen. I think the San Diego's going to be playing from behind in this game. I feel like if it's an air raid, like it's going to be, Keenan Allen's going to get in the end zone probably about 120 yards. That's where I'm looking at.
If we have Colts fans listening, I want you all to tweet the show at SFL Show and tell Zach how much of an idiot he is.
Yeah, we're starting out with this right off the bat. I'm loving it.
Maybe
you
you
guys.
should pick Jarrett Boykin.
Yeah, oh, please. I'm glad we didn't mention
Now
him.
that Randall Cobb's back, maybe he'll be your pick.
You can't see me right now, but if looks could kill.
You'd be killing, I know.
It
All right.
doesn't hurt.
Tight end. Can we please not talk about tight end because Jimmy Graham is just the beast of all beasts. I don't feel like you guys said, there's so much value, but there's no top guy like Jimmy Graham.
I think it's got to be Jimmy Graham, but Vernon Davis could also give him a run for his money this week if that game starts to get out of hand.
I agree. Vernon Davis always has a chance at a breakout game, but Jimmy Graham's not going to be cutting down on snaps this week. This is the week that he's going to be out there every freaking play.
You kidding me? He's going to get his legs chopped off not to play it down. He's going to play every single down this game. It's going to be crazy. All right, we talked about value defenses. I don't think weekend winner you really need to go crazy in defense this week because they all got into the playoffs. They all have to be at least semi-decent, right? I feel like these are going to all be close games for the most part. I have San Francisco listed only if this weather thing stays really brutally cold and blizzardy. I feel like that could be like a 20-13 game or something. That's pretty much what you want, some turnovers in there.
Myself, I'm pretty excited for a pick six by the Kansas City Chiefs.
I agree.
Because I think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree.
So you guys are an advocate of spending the maximum $7,500 on
I'm an
Kansas City
advocate
Chiefs?
of picking a weekend winner for the defense, which is
Okay.
what I'm about to do.
Okay, I just wanted to check, guys.
Come on, Donald.
You don't need to jump down my throat on the first show ever. You can just calm down a little bit, guys. All right, this is my favorite. We're moving on to my favorite part of the show ever. I love this segment. It's called Would You Rather. I picked two guys who are similarly priced. Throw them out to you. You have to pick one of them. Seth loves to pick both of them and make points on both sides. Don't do that, Seth. Stop it.
But it's so much fun.
Of course it is. The first one is Andrew Luck, $16,595, or Colin Kaepernick, $16,011.
Colin Kaepernick, enough said.
I have to go with Colin Kaepernick as well.
Oh, good. You agreed for once. Lovely. Nick Foles, $18,448, or Andy Dalton, $17,968.
What do you think, Zach?
I'm going with Nick Foles.
Oh, so am I. I can't go with the Red Rocket.
I can't pick Andy Dalton. I have a problem doing it. Of course, he has a chance to get a few TDs, and he's actually had a pretty good year, set some records for the Bengals. But, Nick Foles, for sure.
Hey, let me ask you a question. If we had to pick a Colin Kaepernick lookalike, would you go with Kenny Vaccaro or Kenny Vaccaro?
Oh, my God. I actually have a question like that later. Thanks for ruining the surprise there. All right, Gio over Bernard, $11,499, or Frank Gore, $10,937. This is a good one.
Is this even a question?
I like this one.
Frank Gore, all day, every day.
Well, first of all, I think there's definitely an argument that can be made for Gio Bernard, particularly with his tendency to catch the ball, which Frank Gore rarely does.
San Diego's pass defense is so bad that Gio Bernard's going to get more snaps because of it.
Gio Bernard has several receiving TDs this year.
Yep.
And I think he's got a great shot to do the same. I mean, he's a big hit-or-miss guy, and I think if you're looking for consistency, you're taking Frank Gore. But if you want the upside, I think Gio's the upside guy in this matchup.
He is the home pick.
Will go with Gio Bernard.
Ooh, there we go.
I will not agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Frank Gore this week. He's still got some youth left. He's got to win.
Of course he does. All right. The law firm, Ben Jarvis Greenell, $72.26, or Donald Brown, $76.69.
I like Ben Jarvis Greenellis this week. I think he's going to play more than Gio Bernard. I think he's going to get.
What, you mean like every other week this season? That thing?
Well, I mean, I think he's going to be effective. I think that Cincinnati's going to be running the ball more than they're passing it. Even though San Diego pass D is not that good, they're going to want to slow down the tempo of the game, like I mentioned earlier. And I think BJGE gets some reps.
BJGE? Are you adding letters to his name? It's BGE.
BJGE, Ben Jarvis.
Stop. You're killing me.
All right.
Zach, who do you take?
I agree. Again.
I hate that word.
And I know it's terrible. I hate agreeing with him. It makes me feel bad about myself. But Donald Brown, I just really don't like him against KC's rush D this week. I don't like Indy, and I haven't liked Indy's offense very much since Reggie Wayne went down.
So you're taking KC as a road dog overall on top of it?
If I were a betting man, of course I'm not.
If you were.
And I never have been. But if I was, yes, I would be taking Kansas City.
You know who got in the end zone this past weekend? Trent Richardson.
Yeah, who? Where he won't come up at all on this podcast.
I couldn't believe it either.
Radio show. I will guarantee.
Yeah, everybody's favorite top 8 pick.
Oh my God, we're not. In a couple weeks when we mention the whole team, Cleveland, we will talk about him. We all missed on him, all of us. All right, next one is Michael Crabtree, 8,033, or Dwayne Bowe, 8,034.
I think Dwayne Bowe is going to be left somewhere over the Dwayne Bowe and be a non-factor in this game. It's got to be Crabtree this week.
I'm starting to get really worried here that we're not going to disagree on anything.
You already disagreed once. We got one. Yeah, we got one.
What was that?
It was
Gio, right?
Yeah,
okay. Well, I kind of did that for the sake of disagreeing, but
oh, come on.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, definitely Crabtree. The offense is more dynamic. I can't do Alex Smith right now.
I'm glad to hear that.
I mean, I support Alex Smith. I support what he tries to do out there. He strives to succeed and be a true threat.
But you just said he's going to win this weekend.
Somebody tell me when
He
Andy
is.
Reid's going to open a restaurant in Kansas City.
Oh, he probably has one.
I mean, you got to be kidding me. How do you live there and coach a team and not have an Andy Reid's rib joint?
Let's get back on track, Seth.
Pork rinds, Andy Reid style.
All
God,
right,
it really needs to happen.
Keenan Allen, 11,645, or Marcus Colston, 10,190.
This is the first good one in my
There's a
opinion.
little discrepancy in price here.
I'm going with Colston. I absolutely love Colston in the playoffs. I love him in this matchup. I think he's going to play great. He always takes it up a notch when it comes this time of the year, and I think he could go over 100 and get 2 touchdowns. I do.
I agree. I don't know if I'm going to
Maybe
take
not
Colston.
2, but definitely 1. I
My
think he will
heart
reach the end zone.
is with the Hofstra boy this week. I really like Marcus Colston, but I don't think I could bet against Keenan Allen with the season.
Okay,
that
hold
he's
on.
having.
Let me stop you right there. Not only did he say Marcus Colston for his winner of the week. Oh, sorry, no, he said in the value,
The value.
didn't he? Okay,
And
so he
then
said
took
on the best
Hilton.
value,
Yeah.
and then he said, he's wasn't Hilton, but he's also worse than Allen, who apparently is
I
not
said
the
that
winner of the week.
I said that Marcus Colston has the potential to be a weekly winner. So does Keenan Allen. So does AJ Green.
Oh, apparently
This is a
all
tough
can.
question. I like them both. I can't decide.
All right.
But if you put a gun to my head, I'm going to disagree with Zach and go with Keenan.
I think the
Allen.
reason that we do the Would You Rather segment is
pick
so
one.
that you actually have to choose
Yes,
something.
that's correct. He makes an
I
argument on
really
both
like
sides.
both guys.
Well, they're both great players.
All right, here's my joke one of the week.
Rookie of the year, Keenan Allen.
Nah, we'll talk about that. Maybe
possible.
not. Jimmy Graham, 15,125, or literally the entire field of tight ends.
Jimmy Graham.
Zach? Are you going to go
Yeah,
with the field?
Jimmy Graham.
Okay,
No,
I was like,
I
please
can't
don't-
do it. I was
please
like,
don't go with
I was
the
like, the
field.
field literally is Vernon Davis, so
Yeah,
I can't.
That's
I
exactly
can't.
the problem.
You know, I think if you put all of the other tight ends, compiled their scores together,
Oh,
they
they'd
still
obviously-
might not equal
No,
Jimmy Graham's
stop
this week,
that.
Except for Vernon.
except for Vernon Davis.
See, the funny thing is we don't have any.
Possible.
We
Yeah.
don't. If Detroit made the playoffs and played in Wild Card Weekend, we'd have the 3-headed monster of Foria, Pettigrew. Who's the third one?
Well, then you'd have to go with Foria and Tony Scheffler.
Yeah, Fora, Pettigrew, Scheffler.
But you'd have
Okay.
to pick Foria, obviously, with 4 touchdowns
It was
for
a joke.
6
Calm
yards.
down. The last two we got is Darren Sproles, 8,878, or Dwayne Bowe, 8,034.
That's another good one.
Oh.
I'm going with Dwayne Bowe.
Woo, there we go.
What a disappointment Darren Sproles has been.
You mean the second half of the season, right? He was
Yeah.
pretty good for, 3 weeks?
Oh,
2
I mean,
weeks?
he had that bust out week, and Twitter was blowing up. Darren Sproles is unstoppable, all this business. But yeah, I'm going with Dwayne Bowe. I don't see him being a big factor in this game.
If Dwayne Bowe runs routes that are shorter than 10 yards, then yeah, I'm going with Dwayne Bowe as well.
Perfect. I like that you agreed on something that you hated earlier. Love it. Dwayne Bowe, my guy. Last one is Anquan Bolden, 11,925, or Vernon Davis, 11,759. Which receiver do you think is going to get the most for San Francisco?
I'm going with Bolden.
Really, I'm going
Why?
with Vernon Davis.
Why? Against Green Bay in Week 1, 13 catches, 208 yards, and 2 touchdowns for 33.3 fantasy points on Star Fantasy Leagues. Anquan Bolden is a man beast, and he will take over this game.
I think Vernon Davis is also a man beast, and he's the man beast that I'd rather have on my team.
They can't both be man beasts.
I think Vernon Davis is going to catch more passes. It's cold. They're going to be throwing shorter passes. Anquan's a deep threat.
Anquan is a threat all over the field. He's strong. He's versatile.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I was saying, at what point is he being a? You guys are too much on this beast thing. You're killing me.
Man beast.
I'm saying on that note, we need to pay some bills here and get to commercial because you guys are freaking me out. Just really freaking me out. You guys are listening to the Star Fantasy League show on the Sports Byline USA Network.
You're listening to the Star Fantasy League show on the Nick Monsanto Show here on the Sports Byline USA Network. Contact the StarFantasyLeagues.com guys via Twitter at SFL Show.
We are wrapped. That was our first shot at live radio, guys. How do you think we did? I think that was fun.
Seth Seth was okay.
Oh, guys, we can't start off. I actually think Seth had some pretty good things to say. I think we splashed. We got our feet wet with our listeners about daily fantasy football a little bit. I feel like we're just inching them into the water,
I
trying to get them.
appreciate both of you.
Oh, that's so nice of you, Zach. I really appreciate
Happy
it.
New Year.
When all of my picks end up being right this week, like usual,
Yeah, well,
everybody will be thanking
I'll say, how big is your head going to be on Monday if all of your picks are somehow correct?
No
It's like,
bigger than it
it's
is
like
usually.
5% right usual for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, 5%, that's better than 3%.
Oh, my God. All right, guys, that will wrap up the first ever Star Fantasy League show. Thank you so much to Nick Bonsanto for allowing us to do this. It was a lot of fun. Thank you to Sports Byline USA Network. We had an absolute blast. You guys can catch us out if you want to play. If you want to play in our big $500 free roll on StarFantasyLeagues.com, we can do that. You can play in all our cash games. We're offering up $6,000 in guaranteed prize pools this weekend.
We've got a great bonus offer for our listeners. If you want to come and you play for real money, you can deposit money and use the bonus code SFL Show, and we'll match your deposit up to $500. It should be a lot of fun.
And not only that, you get free money, but you also can interact with us on Twitter. If you want to ask us some questions while the games are going on, ask us about your picks, about what you should do, who you should start. Definitely get at us at SFL Show, support at StarFantasyLeagues.com. We will even answer your questions on there. We are always on.
We're going to be watching the games just like you, so come and chat with us. Have a great time. Join our community. Talk to our players.
$500 free roll, too.
Play the $500 free roll this weekend. It costs nothing to enter. You could win your share of $500. Great time to get involved.
Let's say, what's better than that? There's no better way to go out than winning free money on StarFantasyLeagues.com. That'll wrap up the Star Fantasy League show. And if you guys don't have John Kitna in your fantasy lineups this weekend, we'll help you make a better team next week.
Kitna!
See you guys later.